Welcome to DeProgram. I'm Michelle Witte. I am here with Ted Rall and John Kiriakou. Boy, we loved staying up late for that long, boring joint address to Congress last night, which is not the State of the Union until next year. We have our thoughts on Trump's first big address and also the brief, thankfully, response by Michigan Representative Elissa Slotkin afterward. We'll get to the meat of Trump's comments, such as it was, in a second. But a lot of the conversation, of course, is about how the Democrats chose or did not choose to protest. And I don't know. I have a take that's maybe I'm comfortable in just having a wrong take on this. I feel like personally, the Democrats can't win right now because nobody buys their shit anyway. So like I have spoken to people who thought the bulk of their resistance, which was wearing pink and sitting there with little paddles that they could flip back and forth that said Musk steals or false or whatever, they found that to be pretty weak. I will say I personally would not have enjoyed more interruptions like the one we saw by Representative Al Green, who got dragged out eventually, just because it just would have made the whole thing take longer. And I just don't. It's also just feels it's performative in a way that's either over the top or lacking. So I wouldn't have been happy either way, honestly.
Agreed. Look, I don't think that. I think Democrats, their original intent was we're gonna be different than Trump. We're gonna be civilized. We're not gonna even go as far as Nancy Pelosi did when she tore up Trump's State of the Union address, on the cameras very dramatically. We're gonna be where where they go low, we go high, blah blah. But I think the mistake here is that he trolled them and he owned them and he goaded them, and they seemed completely implacable and just you couldn't get a rise out of them, even when he insulted them and impugned their honor. And there was moment after moment. Look, it was a terrible speech, even by Trump standards. A lot of missed opportunities, even for jokes. Like he didn't really land the line where he said, like, there's nothing I could cure cancer and you guys still wouldn't applaud for me, right? I mean, he didn't even really get that to land. And, even his funniest moment was when he went through that William Proxmire-like list of allegedly wasteful government spending. And he mentioned that, I would have had a field day with the what was it? The sedentary migrants.
Yes.
And it's like, if they were more sedentary, there wouldn't be a problem.
We could catch them.
Get your act straight. Are you sedentary or are you migrants? Yeah. Or are you just wiggling in a little bit in between? Like, I mean, he could have really had fun with it. He didn't really seem that on. But when he lands a direct blow personally against Elizabeth Warren, and called her by he loves to have his little insulting nicknames for his political enemies, like his former enemy, now Secretary of State, Little Marco. He called her Pocahontas. And I was thinking, where is the solidarity, whether feigned or real, between her colleagues in the House and the Senate to say, you do not treat here in the halls of Congress, this is not a campaign rally. You can't have a campaign rally here at effectively a State of the Union address. You're not going to do that to a sitting U.S. senator, who's served with honor for years. Who the hell are you? But there's still no moment where Democrats seem able to summon that, at long last, sir, have you no decency That just doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
Hmm.
Yeah, I have to agree. And I was very, very disappointed in the Democrats last night because they were essentially Republicans in that they criticize Marjorie Taylor Greene, they criticize Lauren Boebert, they criticize anybody who makes an outburst or looks stupid, looks silly, wears something dumb, and then they end up doing exactly the same thing with their dumb little signs and Al Green getting up and making a fool of himself. There's no decorum anymore
Hmm.
in Congress.
Even the
And the
pink
Democrats,
outfits.
yeah, the stupid pink outfits. I, there's no sympathy here for the Democrats. I thought they looked like fools.
I
I
thought
will
so
just
too.
say, I don't know what they could have done that I would have approved of at this point, just because it all feels so hollow.
Yeah, they
So
should have
I'm
just
just
on
putting
their
little
hands.
asterisk by saying, like, I didn't like what Al Green did. Partly because also he stands up, he shakes his cane at the point in the speech where, of course, Trump begins by talking about his great election victory, and of course
Yeah,
he's exaggerating it, right? Okay, but you're gonna wave your cane around because he said he got like a 3 point victory instead of a 1.5 point victory. Like, that's what you're gonna take 4 minutes
yeah,
of my life for, And I guess he was yelling about Medicaid. He had no mandate for Medicaid, but it just sounded like he was objecting to the slight exaggeration of Trump's election results. And I just thought, for the love of God, there's going to be something more worthwhile later, right?
For
Yeah.
sure.
So like
yeah,
either,
exactly.
yeah, wait. And then, yeah, as you say, Ted, get up and leave, right? If all you're going to do is stand there and swish your little paddles back and forth.
Yeah, they all looked like they were at a Sotheby's auction. And they couldn't even manage proper paddle messaging, right? I was yelling at the TV. Why doesn't it say lie instead of false? Like, what do
Yeah.
you mean false? You don't even like lie.
Maybe they didn't want to evoke the "you lie" fiasco
I
of
would have
one
wanted
of
to, I would have
Obama's
wanted to
speeches.
evoke that.
Yeah. Um, all right, should we talk about the content?
Mm, let's
It
do
was
it.
I gotta say, also just almost unbearable how often people were getting up to interrupt Trump. I mean, the Republicans getting up with applause lines. Like, this is why people don't want to watch the NFL anymore, because
Yeah,
there's a pause between every play.
Yeah.
Um, I I was uh unpleasant. I got not surprised, I suppose. Well, I guess I honestly think trans people as a topic might have gotten as much attention as anything else in the entire speech. There were like a couple different segments where first they talked very disingenuously about protecting women's sports, keeping trans women out of girls' sports. And then there was some shit later on about, not allowing trans students to socially transition at school, and the big applause line about declaring there to be two genders. I mean, I expected this administration to be hateful to trans people, but in a long speech that touched on a lot of different stuff, if you went back and counted the minutes that trans people were discussed, it probably is a plurality of the topic of the entire speech, except for maybe another recap of the Butler assassination attempt. And that is what is just simply cruel, simply petty, not improving anyone's life. You know what I mean? And it is the low-hanging fruit that I think we predicted Trump is going to come in and be able to do, because there wasn't going to be, there aren't that many ways that Democrats can resist it right now, and they're all terrified because what they've decided the far left is identity politics and gender politics, which is a whole other infuriating conversation. But that to me was really distressing.
I want to send these guys, I want to send the Democrats to politics, or I should say campaigning 101. So here's the thing. If you're going to be accused of something anyway, there's no point running away from it. You might as well own it, lock, stock, and barrel. If you're going to be accused in every election of being far left socialists, then run with hammers and sickles in the background. Make fun of the ads of the Republicans. If you're going to be accused of trying to turn the entire country trans and
yeah,
have every woman in sports end up in traction because she's getting beaten up by trans women who are 6'6", own
Yeah.
it make fun of it, and totally embrace the trans cause because they're sticking you with it anyway.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I wrote a book called The Anti-American Manifesto. You know how many times I've gotten called anti-American since the book came out? None.
Huh?
Own it.
That's good. I like that. So what's the solution here? In my view, there is no solution that would be acceptable to the Democrats. I think the Democrats, if they had any class at all, would have sat on their hands last night and fought legislatively, fight in the Rules Committee, fight on the front steps of the Capitol in front of the news cameras, not make fools of themselves on national television.
Propose legislation that
Exactly.
never even like great legislation, and then put the Republicans in the tough spot of not granting a vote, not putting it on the docket.
Mm-hmm.
I will say the one thing that the Democrats have managed to get themselves together to block was a bill to block trans girls from playing in women's sports. Which again, I get, cool. It is, I feel like if there is any aspect of, recognition and trans recognition and inclusion in society, it is like trans women participating at an elite level in women's sports, where I feel like more conversations need to be had, but not at the level of like elementary schools and junior high schools or whatever. Right. So I'm not upset that they blocked this bill, but really like, that's it. That's what you've been able to do so far. I was surprised at that. And then, if you want to talk about his, the list of fraud that Trump detailed there, that you mentioned earlier, Ted. I mean, yeah, Lesotho, a country no one's ever heard of. Some of that was funny, but also anyone can hear, for the most part, he's talking about $5 million here, $10 million there. He even got down into the hundreds of thousands. Nobody thinks that's the kind of government waste that is going to make any kind of dent in our deficit or debt. And so again, you just like, it was embarrassing to watch. How can anyone cheer enthusiastically because you have managed to cut $330,000 to go toward election confidence in Liberia? You know what I mean? Who gives a fuck? Who fucking cares?
You're assuming, Michelle, that people have a good understanding of the numbers and know the amount of the federal budget. I think these politics work. I don't think they should, but they do. I think, for most people, $10 million is more money than they're ever going to hear about in their entire life. And so, they hear $10 million. They don't contextualize, this is part of a multi, this is a part of a, let's say a $1.6 trillion Pentagon budget, right? Effectively, or whatever. So I don't think they see it. These, Proxmire I mentioned, he used to, make a lot of hay out of this stuff. Ron Paul, it's effective. It works. It lands with the public, but I will say, again, speaking of impotent Democrats, that whole thing, that litany of the 200-year-old Social Security recipients, that's false.
It's
right?
all, yeah.
Not one penny has been ever gone, as far as we know, to a deceased taxpayer. There's been scandals in the past on a very low level. Here in New York in the 70s, famously, there was a nursing home that didn't report their Social Security recipients had died. And they just kept cashing the checks. They've changed the system, so that can't happen anymore. And they were burying the bodies across the street in Central Park. But very clever. But that doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen anymore. It can't happen anymore. And Democrats, they didn't even hiss, boo, yell, call out the president, even though this has been 100% debunked. They just let him say it.
It's also just preposterous. If you added up the numbers that he was listing, 4 million people between this age. Well, that adds up to like 15 or 20 million people. There's only 70 million people in the country getting Social Security.
There you are with your numbers, Michelle.
25% are fake and dead. That means I would know one. You know what I mean? I would know someone committing Social Security fraud, and I don't. It's not that hard. And again, stand up and say that this is false, right? Where are all the Democrats?
Literally stand up and just say bullshit. or shame, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. John?
Sorry, I had my thing on. I agree with you. It's just one disappointment after the other. And I have to add too. I've been thinking about this a lot, especially the last few days as Trump has pushed this agenda of his forward with the help of Elon Musk.
Mm.
I've never liked Donald Trump. I've never respected Donald Trump. I don't trust Donald Trump. But I've come to realize that I don't like or respect or trust the Democrats either. I don't feel hopeful in any way. I feel like if the Democrats were serious about leading, into this new century, that they would have done so on the issues that are most important to their constituents, like abortion, for example, when they could have repeatedly could have codified Roe v. Wade and chose not to.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Democrats just don't give a shit about people, about working people, especially, even if they pay lip service.
They don't take their jobs seriously.
They don't take their job seriously. That's exactly right. And Hakeem Jeffries so far has not impressed me in any way in terms of his ability to lead his caucus. We don't really know what the Democrats stand for. And I'm not just talking about congressional Democrats. There was a poll that came out a week ago yesterday showing that the Democrats' top choice to be the nominee in 2028 is Kamala Harris. Like, have you learned nothing after nominating Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton? Have you
And now they're
learned
talking about
something?
outsiders like Mark Cuban.
Yeah. And Mark
Cuban
Cuban
American, as he
has
said.
repeatedly said that he is not interested.
Oh, Stephen A. Smith.
Yes.
He's the other one who's
Are
polling.
you
Yes.
kidding?
Nope.
Stephen Smith.
Yep.
See what I mean?
Yes.
They don't know what in the world they're doing. Yeah, I was talking to a guy the other day about this announcement. It's some billionaire Democrat in Florida said he's going to run for governor. First, he said as an independent. Then he said he's as the founder of a new party called the Capitalist Party, which is going to be the moderate party because
Isn't
the
that,
Democrats.
don't we have two of those already?
I know, right? But he said the Democrats are so extremely left, and
God,
the
I wish.
Republicans,
Yeah.
the Republicans are so extremely right that we need a capitalist social democratic party. It's like, buddy, what planet do you live on? There is no left-wing party.
I want to talk. We probably should
There is no left wing.
talk a little bit about the third way sponsored Democratic retreat, where they've come up with their priorities for the future, and after we get through the Trump address. But if these are the people who are going to be defending Social Security from Elon Musk,
Yes.
I am very afraid, right? Because initially, and I want to ask you about how Musk's treatment has been going, because I guess, had speculated that there would be a Trump-Musk rift before too long, because Donald Trump is much more popular than Elon Musk is. And because Elon Musk is Donald Trump is a charlatan, right? And someone who, as John put, none of us like or respect. But Elon Musk is far, far worse, right? And Donald Trump at least has some positions that I can agree with.
That's why Trump is keeping Musk around.
But you had the man who is touting these totally false claims about the number of people committing Social Security fraud. You have him going on the Joe Rogan podcast to call Social Security like the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. And now I don't have a lot of faith that Donald Trump is going to be interested in mitigating Elon Musk's clear desire to just make everyone but him in this country extremely miserable. And if the Democrats are the ones who are in the way of it, I feel genuinely afraid of the future of Social Security.
I'm 62 this August. Okay. I mean, I was hoping to finally see a government benefit, at some point in my life. It looks like I may not. Look, the Democrats, as you allude to, don't seem like they're in a position to stop it. I mean, I was talking to my fellow podcaster, Scott Stantis, on the phone this morning about the speech. And, we both had talked before Trump came to power about how we were both worried might have to leave the country because, some crazy MAGA person might assassinate us at a book signing. Now we're not worried about that at all. Now we're thinking we might have to leave the country just because the people who run the country are so stupid. I mean, if you just look at all the moo cow dumb faces on both sides yesterday, and in fact, as well, and I'm going to add in a lot of the media talking heads who were analyzing all this before and after. It's like, I mean, I was thinking about like the average journalist I know or the average cartoonist I know is smarter than any member of the US Senate. I mean, I'm not saying that just to be snotty. It's like, I don't think the best and the brightest go into politics anymore. They can't. They don't. They go elsewhere. Yeah. We've seen, and now we have idiocracy is here. It has arrived. And last night, what we saw is not Donald Trump is a symptom as much as he is a driver of all of this. And it's frightening. People don't know how to think, reason, argue, counter-strike and counter-strike. It is just terrifying. I mean, it's like I used to wonder as a kid when I'd read about the rise of Nazi Germany, how did this happen to the land of Beethoven? Oh, now I see it completely. It's like idiocy can end up taking over the political class. That's what we're seeing.
And so you have Musk in the audience at that speech last night, and Donald Trump very happy to point him out.
He's the genius. He's the genius. Yeah. He's the resident
and wearing
genius.
A suit, and also apparently the head of Doge, although the official position is that he is not the administrator of Doge, it's somebody else. So no rift forthcoming from what I can see.
Mm-hmm. No, I think he look, it's very useful. If we're going to go with the fascist analogy, Goebbels was very unpopular, and Hitler liked that because it's like, people thought whenever things went wrong, like, on the Eastern Front, why don't we have enough clothes to survive the Eastern Front? It's like, well, if the Fuhrer knew about this, it's the people around him who are all assholes. If the Fuhrer knew, he'd be pissed.
Yeah.
They literally thought that.
Yeah.
I think Trump knows, and I don't think he studied World War II history, but I think Trump, he has a very powerful political instinct. His instincts are amazing. It's like he has an animal cunning, and he has sussed out the fact that people are. It's good to have a patsy. Musk will be the liberal piñata, and even to the point where on SNL, Musk was being basically made fun of as an autistic kid.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that really stuck in my craw is Donald Trump points out this little boy who really wants to become a police officer, and you have this very touching moment where they make him a social security or whatever, a Secret Service agent, because how could his team get any worse anyway? Might as well put a bunch of sick 13-year-olds on it. But Trump manages in the span of like 90 seconds to say, oh yeah, this kid, he got brain cancer probably as a result of the chemical he's exposed to. But we're going to sick, Bobby Kennedy over at HHS on the causes of cancer. He's just finished saying he's slashed environmental regulations. It's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe this is worthless, but you just think none of this makes any sense. This is so patently stupid. And then Bobby Kennedy got up, and I cannot tell if this man is he unwell? Like, is he physically very sick, or was he there sitting there thinking what I'm thinking? Because the smile that he was able to muster was like, listen, I wasn't buying it. It was like he could barely get his lips to move. He looked very uncomfortable.
I've heard competing intel on RFK Jr. A friend of mine who knows him very well is convinced, and worked with him for years, is convinced that RFK has lost his mind. The brain worm got him. He's a complete idiot. Others I know say, no. He's all there. The elevator goes to the top floor still, and he knows it's all foolishness, but he doesn't care. I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, and I think maybe a problem that is at least as big, maybe it's even a bigger problem, is he genuinely doesn't have any idea what he's doing. He's never managed a giant organization like HHS. He's surrounded himself with yes men.
Mhm.
And I think he just simply doesn't know what he's doing. It's that basic.
And even if he genuinely wants to accomplish these goals, like ending childhood cancer and, child chronic disease, whatever, you can't do that through HHS alone. Even with the
No.
best will and executive ability in the world, you can't do those things while you are simultaneously slashing regulation.
Right.
Because you can't end childhood cancers if people are getting exposed to more and more chemicals all the time, and if there's no regulation on what's in the food we eat. So and again, this does not seem to be rocket science to me. The other question I have about a personnel there, sorry, my dog is barking. Was Trump just being funny, or is he going to throw Marco Rubio under the bus? Because there was a whole bit about how the Democrats, the only person there the Democrats like was Marco Rubio. Oh, there's Marco. You got 100 votes, blah, blah, blah. Might be just funny, but I mean, he has always stuck out like a sore thumb in this administration, Marco Rubio, who was confirmed as Secretary of State with, as Trump said, quite a lot of support from his Democratic colleagues.
And man, I've never seen anyone look quite as uncomfortable as Marco Rubio at that presser with Zelensky.
Yeah.
SNL got that one right. He's like this, like.
Yes. Well, the only person who looked worse was the Ukrainian ambassador, who actually had her head in her hands.
Yep.
I think it's possible to make too much of this, and I don't see any rift between Marco Rubio and the Trump administration. But if there was going to be, a whipping boy, right, or a sort of like designated slaughter, I think it might be Marco Rubio.
I wonder if I think if anything happens there, it's not going to happen soon. I wonder if we could end up with sort of a resignation on a principled resignation at some point over some foreign policy rift.
God, what could it possibly be at this point, though?
Well, something. Who knows?
Yeah.
On foreign policy, one of the stories that I noted yesterday that got brought up in the speech was Trump made some statement about how the U.S. is going to take back the Panama Canal. So it's BlackRock. BlackRock has bought some ports from a Chinese company on the Panama Canal. Just so is BlackRock an arm of the U.S. government? Is it U.S. government? You know what I mean? Like, I guess this is sort of normal, but you just think like this is a company that's going to make money. I guess it's an American company, but so now we're just fully stating like corporations are the U.S. government.
Well, I mean, it's as accurate as to say that it was a British founded Hong Kong company that did run those two ports, right, that are being acquired by BlackRock. Yeah. So it would be as accurate. It's as accurate to say that America is taking it over as it was to say that China had it in the first place, right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't read. I mean, I think the point is Michelle, your point's well worth noting. It's about corporatism and all that, but yeah.
Yeah. All right. What else, guys? I mean, I took notes on like every sentence he said, but I don't know that it's necessary to go through all of them.
Please, no.
No. Well, we're going to get a golden dome. Great.
Yeah, it'll only cost $1 trillion. So that's okay.
But it's fine because we're saving $250,000 that we were going to send to Moldova that we're not anymore. I mean, I don't know, man. Numbers come up. He's been talking about sending hundreds of billions to Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like if you follow the news at even a surface level, you can tell there's a difference between 300 billion and 1 million.
And he promised to balance the budget.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
All right, President Reagan.
He did finally get around to defending tariffs also. Or explaining why we're going to have tariffs, which is not because of fentanyl, it turns out. It's not because of the fentanyl crossings that gave him the emergency powers to impose these tariffs, but it's because we're going to just make all of our steel and harvest all of our lumber and make all our cars at home. After a period of adjustment, which we'll all be fine with, the president promised.
Yeah.
We'll see what Wall Street has to say about that.
I mean, I haven't been very happy about it the last 2 days.
No. Although it hasn't exactly been, I mean, people, these days when the stock market goes down 1,000 points, it doesn't really mean that much when the Dow is 42,000. So
I did see someone posted something on Twitter about Canada. Canada's very upset, of course, about these tariffs. And someone posted something about watching a Canadian liquor store take all the American wine bottles off the shelf. And then there was just a shelf of nothing. And I thought, well, who is this supposed to own? You know what I mean? Is it, ooh, you're not going to sell our wine anymore. I guess you're going to miss it. You know what I mean? Like, what do you got to restock with?
What might be more important is the announcement by the premier of Ontario that they're just going to take 3 American states off the electrical grid.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to hurt, and it's winter.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the same mayor? Isn't that the guy who used to be the mayor of Toronto? It's a different, same name, right?
It's his brother.
It's his brother.
Oh God. Okay. All right. I was like, wait, that guy. Oh,
the Ford dynasty.
Yeah.
I know they don't have that many people there, but I was like, okay, wow. That's true. That's a serious escalation.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I guess they already might be walked back by the time this goes up, or tinkered with a little bit. So we'll find out.
Trump said this morning that we could have an agreement with the Canadians by Tuesday. So who knows?
These things move fast these days.
I
mean, it's like vapor. I mean, it's funny to me that Democrats don't even know how to counter message on this either. I mean, I'm like yelling at the TV, like, I don't care about the Democratic Party at all, but I'm like, there should be one. And and they should say, they should call this the Trump tax instead of tariffs.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Republicans would if the shoe were on the other foot.
That's right. They would.
All right. Do we want to talk about the response yet? Is there anything we missed in that 100-minute speech? Let's just make them shorter. Alyssa Slotkin.
Also, can we make them earlier? I'm against, ever since COVID, no one's staying up till 11 o'clock at night. Like, let's just say that, like, on the West Coast, sorry, but the speeches start at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern.
Enjoy your nice weather. You pay for it by letting us all go to bed.
Right, exactly.
Well, I was very reassured by having the Democratic, the one giving the response, get up and immediately tell me she was CIA. So I thought, great. No offense, John.
No, I'm with you.
Immediately just jumps up and says, don't worry, guys, I'm CIA. And then, like, she says, bless her, it was short at least. And also, I will say, there is nothing wrong with the message that change needs to happen, but it doesn't need to be chaotic and reckless. I agree. True. I've just heard Democrats promise me that they are going to change anything at all for 20 years and nothing's happened. So it's like, sure. Yeah. I don't take issue with that necessarily. I think at this point we need much more than moderate change, but whatever. I don't like what Elon Musk is doing either. It's stupid and ham-fisted. Mm-hmm. But nobody fucking buys it, right? So the problem is the messenger to some degree and not the message. But also, she comes out and says, okay, guys, we're going to talk about 3 really important things. The economy, check. Yes, Americans demonstrably care about that. National security. What do you mean? What is this? The people, you're talking about the border, then say immigration. But if it's just fucking NATO, nobody cares. And then our democracy. And again, I don't like what Elon Musk is able to do, but that's been proven to be a big, dumb stinker. You couldn't come up with, you just do the whole thing on the economy if you want to, or do it on the economy and like acceptance in our communities and talk about how Trump spent 20 fucking minutes trashing trans people and making them genuinely afraid, I am sure. So just like right off the bat, the priorities they have chosen, to me at least, I'll let you guys respond, seemed to miss the mark.
Totally agree. I want to add to that also that like on the Musk stuff, Republicans have cleverly are taking advantage of a phenomenon of bumper sticker politics, right? Like it's never a winner in politics to say, I agree with what you're trying to do, but I don't like how you're doing it. It's like, that's never a winner. It's like the simple message is Musk is like, I'm taking the chainsaw to bureaucracy. I'm going to save us all a bunch of money. You're all going to get a check for $5,000. Everyone's like, America, fuck yeah, USA, USA. That's it. If you say like, but I don't like the details. I think you should shadow the government. It's like, you just sound like a knittering nabob of negativism. Nobody cares. Unfortunately, I wish I were wrong. I just think this is just political psychology. It's just how it works. And in terms of the response, I was talking the second time I'm going to mention my friend Scott Stantis, but I thought he said something really brilliant to me, which is these Democratic responses or these opposition responses, the structure of them is deeply flawed. First of all, you're sending someone out who's almost always, this is viewed as an opportunity for someone who hasn't had a lot of limelight. Let's bring them out after the president speaks, and we'll introduce them to the country by giving the Democratic response. He said that's a mistake. You should bring out a veteran, seasoned politician. And these speeches are written ahead of time, right? So instead, it's not really a response. What it should be is you're taking notes like, let's just say a talk show host, you're taking notes like you did, Michelle, of everything that went on in the speech. And then you go point by point, and you don't knitter, you don't say like, well, actually unemployment is 2.6, not 2.2%. You don't do that, but you get it, but you go after, the broad points and you attack those, and you respond to say three big topics in the president's speech. They don't do that. It's literally like, it's weird because it's point counterpoint, but the counterpoint person never listened to the point. And so, and you can tell that it doesn't work. I think it's a failure. I don't think it could work with that structure.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I also enjoy, and presumably, like, what he's going to say. So you could do that very easily. Take some notes. Say, here's what they say about Social Security. They're going to attack Social Security. Here's how we're going to defend it. They're going to, here's what the tariffs are going to do. Here's how we're going to try and protect you. Yeah, it would be much more effective. But whatever. The stuff she said on the economy, sure. If you're going to do that, great. If I believed that you were going to do any of it, maybe I would conceivably vote for this party. But it's never going to happen because you're a bunch of liars. I did enjoy, John, the moment where she went sort of off the rails on Ukraine, once again accused Trump of cozying up to dictators, more of these failed tactics, and then accused Trump of having a transactional foreign policy. I mean,
that's the history of American foreign policy, is to have a transactional foreign policy, right? Yeah. Did we learn nothing with the opening to the Soviet Union and China in the 70s? Man, these people, it's like they're reinventing the wheel and they're not even good at it.
Yeah. She did have a little advice at the end on self-care, basically. Which again, I appreciate. Yes, absolutely. Take her advice to organize. Take her advice to go to town halls and hold lawmakers accountable. Pick an issue that you care about. Try and move forward on it.
Except the Republicans are canceling all their town halls.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Well, I guess the Democrats are doing one good thing, and they're sending people out to have town halls in it's probably wrong to say Democrats are doing this. Bernie Sanders was doing this. And I think Ro Khanna has sort of picked up on the idea and is going to have town halls in places where Republicans aren't, which is smart. It's just, again, it doesn't matter what you say as a Democratic Party anymore because nobody believes you.
Yes, exactly.
That's true. And speaking of Bernie Sanders, who, I have written a book about and deeply admired. He goes on social media the other day and puts out a 2-page broadside accusing Trump of being, the lapdog of Vladimir Putin. And I was like, did Dick Cheney write this? It's bizarre. The tone of the whole thing, it's so strident. It's so over the top. I'm like, aren't you the guy who honeymooned in the
Moscow?
USSR?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah. I didn't read it, but like,
Read
yeah,
it. It's crazy. I mean,
yeah.
it's like seriously the Russophobia thing. I mean, it is interesting, right? Like the Democrats they're trying a lot of stuff that just Trump is. They're trying a lot of stuff that's like the greatest hits from KTEL that were never greatest hits, and that's not what Trump is coasting on, and it's still working for him. Is whatever else he is, stupid, mean, rude, racist, transphobic, he's interesting and
Mm-hmm.
novel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I've said all along, Trumpism dies when the show stops being entertaining.
Yeah.
Last night I saw the beginning of that. Like the show is becoming less entertaining.
We thought we saw that on the campaign. You know, I mean, the story of the Trump campaign in 2024 was this is not the same Donald Trump as in 2016 or even in 2020, right? It was just like, there's not, I mean, I agree with you, Ted. He's still funnier than any of his Democratic counterparts.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is there's no opposition, right?
Right.
Like that's the problem is
That is the
we
problem.
clearly need radical change in this country. Only one person is promising anything close to that.
And in a
It's
position
not,
to deliver it.
yeah, it's not what I want. And you just have on the other side some people who simply cannot offer an alternative because they are beholden to most of the same interests, you know? So they can't come up with lies that are sort of any at all convincing in the other direction because they're not going to, you know, I think if they started promising people anything like, socialism or planned economy, they get too excited about it. They'd have to follow through, you know, which, yeah. I mean, I don't know if we want to save this for another conversation, but that it is what is so infuriating about these apparent, like the soul searching and the document that came out of this retreat, I guess a few days ago, in which Democrats sort of did a post-mortem on the election and have decided what they need to do to be successful in the future. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about this for a couple minutes,
yes,
or if you want to save it for tomorrow. Well, the one thing that is so obnoxious to me, and there were, you know, a variety of bullet points about what Democrats are going to do. But they have just decided that far left, doing air quotes here, the far left is saying Latinx. You know what I mean? Like they have decided that being far left is identity politics, which is fucking crazy, right? So you can't have a conversation in this country if your definition of what is left is like corporate giveaways, but you say Latinx and you have like race quotas in your company. Like so that's what they've decided is a big stinker. There's not even a mention of like economic policy or minimum wage or anything else. And so this is why people are saying like you can't have a conversation about a left-right paradigm right now because you've thrown any sort of economic talk out the window. And it's sort of like, do you say racial slurs or not? It's unbelievably stupid to me.
I hope that's what they've decided. That's literally the topic of my next book. And it's done. It's called It's literally called, never mind the Democrats, here's what's left. It's called What's Left.
I mean, it is so very stupid. And so they have decided that because that is the left, right? That the reason they have lost touch with the working class is that they have let themselves be dragged around by the nose too much by small dollar donors whose views are out of touch with the larger electorate. So I guess that means they got to follow the lead of big dollar donors some more because God knows George Clooney wants what we all want instead of like, well, whatever.
What's interesting about that to me, Michelle, is that like, okay, so my first reaction is to take it personally. I guess that's my inner Donald Trump, is to be like, oh, they're trying to redefine the left out of existence, class analysis as if it never existed, identity politics is the far left, and therefore there is the real far left doesn't exist. But I think you know, unlike Donald Trump, I will push myself out of it because I don't think that's what's important. What's interesting truly is that a post-mortem like this is supposed to be where the party gets some real intelligence. They get real with themselves, and they get real with the situation as it actually exists. And so what this shows us is that they are themselves, they're not open to reality. They're not open to the fact that 40% of Americans have consistently told the Gallup poll for well over a decade that they have a favorable view of socialism and communism. Mm-hmm. They don't get it. They don't know about that. They would be like, it's literally like they don't even really know the political lay of the country that they are one of the two major parties of. Mm-hmm. That's really super interesting. I mean, it's gonna, remind me of like, the look on the Ceausescu's faces when they were being about to be shot. They had this dumb, like, why are you doing me? Why are you mad at me? Till the moment of their deaths, they had that dumb expression on their face, like I can't believe it. But everyone loves me. Everyone loves us. And that's what they're going to be like when, I don't know, when the Democrats are no more, whether it's due to a revolution or it's something far more mundane and nonviolent. The point is they're going to be so surprised. Wait, there was all this stuff going on out there that we didn't even think of. I mean, so they don't even have access to good information about their own country. I don't. But that to me is fascinating.
But they do. I just can't. I cannot accept that it's just that they're stupid. I mean, maybe you are right, Ted. But like, these are mostly people who have plenty of money, who have plenty of like time to read and good educations, and could go out of the country. Like there's
good money. You could go to a bookstore and you can have a gift card, buy all the books you want. But if you don't buy the right books, you're not getting the right intel.
I feel like there's just no excuse for not. There's just no excuse for not seeing reality. Whatever. I mean, you have to
be smart to recognize reality. I mean, there's so much bullshit even for the political class. I mean, think about all the people, the James Carvilles of the world, all of the consultants who are trying to all say, I have the answer. I know what's what. Pay me, I'll tell you what's going on. They're drowning in misinformation and disinformation themselves.
All you have to do is read 3 articles about China. You know what I mean? And reading between the lines, you will be able to see
3 right articles about China.
It doesn't even matter. No, this is the thing. This is the thing, Ted. I feel like if you actually ever at all read the entire story from any, like the entire news article in what most people would consider to be a reputable organization, there will be enough actual data in there that is correct that you can form a different picture if you keep looking. You know what I mean?
Disagree
why
completely.
is China just not a fucking backwater full of trash? Something must have gone right over the last 40 years. You know what I mean?
If you're reading the Washington Post article about China, let's say, you and I think the 3 of us probably all are used to, we're kind of like reading the way Soviets used to read in Izvestia. We're reading we're doing Kremlinology. We're reading between the lines, and we're able to extrapolate from a little thing that's buried in the jump page into something bigger. But for the Bernie Sanders of the world, they have to. And and they're all really old too. Everyone there. It's like I kind of felt sorry. You could almost hear all the creaking knees of these people getting up and down repeatedly in the speech last night. It's like they are. I don't think they're able to see it. They're at the headline, and then like maybe the first graph. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty sad that shaking a cane at the president is emerging as a trend among Democrats. There was a guy who was doing it. I don't think it was Al Green. It was somebody else who was in front of the Education Department or USAID. Also, sorry, on the topic of being old, one of the people there died. The dude, his name was Sylvester. Sorry, I wrote it down in here.
In Texas. From Texas, just found dead.
Yeah. He died he died last night.
That's right.
God, no one should have that speech be their last memory.
He died. He was elected in 2024 to replace Sheila Jackson Lee, who had died in office at 74. Can we see a pattern here that's wrong?
And who we really miss?
Yeah, she was good.
Well, They're gonna have another election. Maybe they can elect somebody a spry 80 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, unbelievable. So yeah, I mean, it was sort of like don't use fancy language to talk to people. Don't refuse to take sort of purity tests. Prioritize economic concerns. I don't know how you're going to do that when you don't have any sort of economic plan that you can promise. Don't fear dissent within the party. Don't defend unpopular institutions. I mean, I don't know. Dying for NATO seems to be contrary to that. I'm going down the list of their sort of the rough list of things that they think are going to save them. Over reliance on buzzwords and political correctness, blah blah blah. The other thing is, I mean, I know I don't want to like spend too long on this, but this backtracking, like over the last, say, I don't know, 6 years, 7 years, the whole idea was that like you can't even continue to carry on a conversation with somebody if they use a word that's not in vogue anymore. I don't mean like a racial slur or something, right? But you know, there was some drama over Nancy Mace mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name that then turned into a shouting match about whether somebody was racist or not. You know, there's the whole like Trump's Hitler. You can't call, I mean, you shouldn't call trans women boys and girls sport. You know what I mean? But like, you can't even have a conversation with somebody who is maybe, we'll give them some credit, using inelegant language because that's like, it might as well be actual violence, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's not the case. Like, what is it? The reactions were so over the top, right? Like now that's not the case. And as many people have been pointing out, including producer Ben, like, as we've said all along, if somebody is actual Hitler, the response shouldn't be a cute paddle. Right? So which is it, right? Are people who say you shouldn't have boys and girls sports unworthy of being in conversation with because they're fucking scum and you can't, you know, it's not worth talking to them to have a conversation to get to a better point of understanding about, you know, trans people and participating in life and in sports and whatever. Like, which is it? Because for the last 7 years, you were pretty quick to decide that some people were too toxic to engage with at all. And now you're going to have to what you're going to have to do is demonstrate to all of us that was pure politics and pure showmanship, and you never actually gave a fuck either way.
Democrats can totally get away. They could theoretically get away with not really trying to reach out to Republicans or explain things or their own positions to them, but they would have to do what Republicans have done in order to grow. They would have to bring in previous non-voters. That's what Trump did. That's why Trump is president. He brought in tens of millions of people who literally never voted before, got them to register, got them to show up at the polls, not once, not twice, but 3 times, and formed a movement. Democrats would have to do that. They would have to find all the lefties, the real left, who not
but
not
I
the
can't because
left.
they don't think they exist.
Exactly. That's
well, like there is no such category. Yeah.
Bam. That's the Democratic dilemma. So they are really truly stuck. I mean, I have no doubt that I don't know. I mean, 50 years, 40 years, theoretically, they could, fight their way out of this wet paper bag, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Join another party. Join the Greens.
Well,
see whatever happened with the People's Party. Join a communist party.
Happened.
Join a communist party. Join the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Right? Probably there's some other there are some very kooky left parties, and you might have to go through a few and figure out which ones are weird cults of personality and which ones take themselves seriously. But do not hold out hope that the Democratic Party is going to turn into it. Just is completely incoherent right now, and it is not operating. I was going to say, but I might have run away with myself. At least when the Republicans talk about the far left, they'll call them Marxists,
Right.
At least they maybe have their terms more correct, actually, than Neera Tanden.
Except they think Democrats are far left Marxists, or at least they say that.
One of our former colleagues, Ted, Angie Wong. I was on with you and Angie one time, and we were talking about politics. And then as part of the transition into the next issue, she said, well, let's talk about the Marxist wing of the Democratic Party. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I was like, are you out of your mind?
That was a routine thing with her.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
I was like, I
yeah,
wish there were one.
Yeah.
yeah,
I'd sign up
Please.
right away.
yeah,
Tell me
yeah,
about it. I'm all ears.
yeah, exactly.
All right. Anything else we need to get out of our systems?
Um,
It's good to rant sometimes.
yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I wonder, and I know we've already gone long, but I wonder, do you guys think Trump will, two-part question, do you think Trump will overreach? Will it happen soon? And if so, would Democrats ever be able to take advantage of it?
I think he actually has overreached already with this tariff policy.
Mm,
I think it's going to drive inflation up as unemployment also goes up.
mhm.
And I think he hasn't counted on the severity that we're about to see. And
Yeah,
so when I say overreach,
we are due for a correction.
we're due for a correction, and there are hints of it in the tech market right now.
Mhm.
Nvidia's down 30% over the last couple of months, and that's the bellwether tech stock right now. And I think that when it comes to the 2026 midterm elections, there are going to be a lot of
And what about
disgruntled,
Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid?
and that's the third rail. And everybody seems to agree that there's got to be some kind of cut or some kind of change. Everybody in the Republican Party, that
Mhm.
there has to be some kind of cut or change. And again, I think Trump underestimates the import of
Mm,
Medicare and Medicaid to people who really need it to live.
yeah,
It's going to come back and bite him.
yeah.
And he may have already staked out what is going to be a very damaging, personally and politically damaging policy.
Yeah,
Michelle?
if he lets the insanely misanthropic tech wing of his
Yeah.
crew
Yes.
keep driving the ship,
The douche wing.
he's gonna have former. I mean, I can't express any position on this phenomena, but you might see former MAGA people trying to
Mhm.
assassinate Donald Trump.
Mhm.
Because that will have been such a betrayal, such
Mhm.
a betrayal, right? Because remember, I mean, he first endeared himself to the United States by talking about the opioid epidemic, by
Mhm.
telling people in rural communities and poor communities that it wasn't their fault
Mhm.
that they had been left behind in this economy. And that really did endear him to people,
Mhm.
right? He promised to protect Medicaid, he promised to protect Medicare and Social Security. If he drops those people and turns their back on
Mhm.
him, or turns his back on them, they're going to have a lot to be angry about and are going to be even more desperate because he really is. Yeah, people really do love him. I mean, it's crazy, but
Mhm.
people really do love him. And
Yeah.
that kind of betrayal can really mess with people's heads.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well, lots to look forward to.
Never a dull moment.
Yep. All right. We'll be back again. We'll be back again talking very soon, but I think that's been all the joint address to Congress deprogramming that we need for the moment. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.